Hey, I'm ElusiveKev, Mr. Kern. Welcome back to MXGP3. As last time out in Latvia, it was again a Sunday ride for the Hillman. But after that race, we've got a decision to make. Do we stay with our current team, choose a new official team, or use our custom team? So let's see what official teams we can join. We can join Zaragoza on the Honda, and they're aiming to go for the top 3 positions. I haven't seen Zaragoza anywhere near that. Then we've got the KTM team with Bogues and the South African. Then we've got the Kawasaki team with Fernandez and Petrov. We've got the TM team with Bernardini. Maybe we could help the Italian out there as he's a lone rider at the moment. Then the Yamaha of Osland and Tonkov we could join. Then Jacobi on the Honda. And then we've got the KTM team of Ivanov, Monteseri, who's been very decent in the Italian in recent races, and Valente. And then we've got the Russian on the Kawasaki. And as you can see, we've got loads of teams interested in us. That's our current team at the moment, the KTM, and also the Jens Getterman. So last time I talked about how I'm going to improve the difficulty now in future as you go up to the highest difficulty, so you might have to go for bit of a better bike. And at the moment I'm thinking, do I go join the Kawasaki MX2 racing team or the TM racing factory team? Should I help out Bernardini even on that TM, or should I join Fernandez and Petrov, some favourites from old MXGP2 on the Team Monster Energy Kawasaki? As I've already ridden the Suzuki, I've ridden the KTM. I could join Honda as well, but I think I'm going to go for the TM. I'm going to join Bernardini and help him out with the TM Racing Factory team. So we have done that, and now we're heading to Germany and the Teutschenthal track, intermediate ground. We've got some sunny conditions. It is going to be a very exciting time. As I almost forgot to do the thing I was meant to be doing, and that is turn out to realistic difficulty. Now on the highest difficulty level. Will the Hillman adapt, or will he fail? As here we are in Germany, and see he's got some big jumps right after the whole shot, but it's also a very tight and twisty technical track, as you can see, some very tight sections from what I remember in MXGP2, and there is the finish line. And another different sounding bike with the TM, a bit more tinny. You know, we had the Hammer with the KTM sounds, we had the normal conventional sounds with the Suzuki, and now we got this, more finny, more, what shall I say, like poppy sound, I feel like, with the TM. As we're on our debut here with our new team and the new difficulty. Let's see if it'll make a bit more of a challenge in these races, as the Hillman have been running away with it after that Thailand round, winning most of the rounds. He's built a very comfortable lead in the championship. As here we come to this very tricky middle section. It's actually a bit nicer in this game with, better track modelling with the terrain as well. Makes it a bit easier. Oh, hello. Getting a karate kicked in mid-air by a bike. What the hell is this? It's not Mad Max out there, is it? So we're aiming to do a mid 1 minute 30 lappers. Oh, that's a jumping off. Take that, Karate Kid. As you coming to the end of it. And this TM, much better than our KTM, it looks like. He's going through it. Oh, he's got back at us. He's pushed us wide. What a cheeky bugger. Does he still achieve a 32.8? Take that, the Brit. Not happy with him. You've got an MX2 rivalry going on here. As look at that. Even on the highest difficulty now on our new bike, we still out-qualify everyone by 2 seconds. Of Hurlins on our French rival on the Yamaha. Got Siva on the Suzuki, looking to bounce back after a disappointing weekend in Latvia. And you've got the Brit, our rival, in 5th on the Has-Fun. It should be thrown to the back of the field for his behaviour on that qualifying lap. Got Petrov in 6th, Bogues in 7th, Tomkov in 8th. There's our teammate Bernardini in 9th on the TM. And Jonas rounds out the top 10 on the KTM ahead of the Kawasaki of Fernandez and Has-Fun of Covington. So great debut qualifying effort on the TM from the Hillman. But we hammer the opposition once again in the first race. As here we are preparing at the start. Getting our gear together, making sure we're all comfortable as Monticelli's now getting the old TV time. And look at this new livery, so bright, isn't it? Number really stands out. But that start didn't. Horrible start. Right to the back of the field, are we? Now we're battling for a top 10 alongside our teammate, I think. As Herden takes the whole shot. For some reason they were pretty slow there. As we're down. We hit the side on the inside. I was too busy paying attention to the other riders. Should have been looking where I was going. That's why you never sightsee and ride, okay? So you're going through this very tricky section at the end of that. Battling for a top 15. We go down the inside here. Oh, they're pushing us wide again. Going to be complaining to the stewards after this race. We're up into 14th despite that fall. We're still on the first lap. I know, we've just gone through the end of the lap, but that still counts as the first part of this first lap. Now we're going for a full circuit and battling to get back up into the top 10 despite a fall. That's all. Bit weird there, a bit slow there, the opposition over that jump. So you're almost back into the top 5. What a comeback for the Hillmen already. In half of that from the back. Almost right to the front as we got the front brakes there too hard. Just I was talking in the last round about how I improved my braking. What are you doing, Fernandez? On the Kawasaki. So got into someone there. No, we are into the top 5. I was talking in the last round about major improvements in like the braking, just being less kind of dependent on them, kind of flow into the corners. You see there when I hit the brakes too hard, it can really unsettle the bike. Especially when you're braking like a rut and you're going the wrong way. You think of that weight transfer as well. As we're taking the lead in Germany. A lap ago we were last. And now we're first as well. We're going very wide there. Remember, difficulty on the highest level here. But the move to the TM bike might have kind of... It was a better bike than our KTM, so it might have kind of counts out that I had a difficulty that moving up a difficulty would have had it. If that sentence made sense. This TM bike a bit tricky, as you can see with the weight transfer. Again, a bit all out of shape. They're just about holding on. Just taking the opposition line there into that jump. You can see why they're a bit slow. You know, you're going left, you're almost going flat out, but in that jump you don't want to be taking it flat out because it can end you or lead you right into the crowd, so you don't want to be doing that. So there we go, that's a bit better now, going into these tight corners, braking slightly earlier, less hard, and then just using those ruts again to carry the speed into the corners. There's, oh! Not exactly the right line I was meant to take there. Let's come to the end of the second lap. What happens if I find this difficulty is going to end up like this with all races? I can't do anything else, can I? I can just say Milestone have once again made a game that's a bit easy. Now I found MXGP3 harder than this, maybe because it was a motocross game that, my introduction to this series, getting used to that game. Tougher collision system, tougher tracks as well. You don't have all these grooves and ruts to help you, around these corners, as I've been talking about how I've been changing my riding style. You had to be much harder on the brakes, much more cautious battling the opposition. You have to do it online, of course, especially with the lag about, but in career mode, yeah, maybe it has gotten a bit easier. Then as I've been saying about these milestone games, you know, they're trying to aim for a wide market here. A niche market, but a wide market at the same time. It's a bit of a contradiction, isn't it? But that's the same with all these sports games, you know, aiming for as wide a market as possible, but while catering to kind of the hardcore fans. So you get a reset, no surprise there. It's around halfway through this race. And it's the same with the F1 games, you know, being a major F1 fan, I want to see them, you know, be almost as realistic as they can be, but the milestone, you know, is the thing like, hey, we want to attract, you know, more casual players as well. And they're doing that with 2017 with the, you know, the classic cars. And, you know, with the handling as well, and, you know, introducing stuff in the game where you can just speed up through sessions, you know, where you don't have to, you know, religiously follow what they're doing in real life, you know, having to do all the practice sessions qualifying in the race. But also while making it, you know, attractive to also make players do that as well, you know, it's a hard balancing act. They appeal to both parties, and perhaps just seeing the downside here with MXGP3 where also have just made it definitely once again a bit easier. So they want to attract as many people as possible to play this game, even though they released it a couple weeks before MXGP3, which they've really been hyping up. Again, look at that release schedule milestone. They did that last year with the Ducati 90th anniversary game, releasing a week before Valentino Rossi the game. You know, a bit ridiculous, their scheduling, but... And this might be their only two games they released this year, milestone. As I said, Gravel might be delayed for a bit. You know, it's like until next year. And that's the game they're really working on. You know, trying to push forward what they're doing with the Unreal Engine as well. This is their first effort, remember, with the Unreal 4 engine. MXGP3, and they can push that on, take another step forward with Gravel, and then they can apply those lessons to the MXGP4 maybe. So it's all a learning process from us at the moment with this engine. I've done a pretty decent job, as I've said previously, with MXGP3. The little annoyances and bugs they have, I'm not hopeful they can iron it out, but I really wish they could. Milestone in the next installment. But it's always the same with milestone games, there's always the little things that are going to hold it back. Or the big things such as optimization with the old engine. So it'll be interesting to see how MotoGP 17 runs in the last game on the old engine. And with them wringing its neck, having all these game modes such as managerial modes, putting up to 60 FPS for consoles, and well, in general as well, putting up to 60 FPS for the first time. It's going to be very interesting to see how they can do that as the crowd go wild for that scrub. As they're coming to the end of this first race in Germany. And despite all the differences from that, the higher difficulty, different team, different bike, the result is the same. Hillman is just hammering the opposition once again as we cross the line and take the first win in Germany. Fantastic race. After falling early on, being right at the back, almost 12 seconds ahead of our French rival on the Yamaha. We've got the KTM of Bogues in third, ahead for Herdins in fourth, and the Belgium with a fantastic result in fifth on the Yamaha. Now the top Kawasaki of Petrov in sixth, then our teammate in seventh, Covington in eighth, Siva in ninth, and we got the Brett in 10th on the Hasfan. A disappointing result of the South African on the KTM and the Kawasaki of Fernandez, who got into us a bit on that first lap. So another victory for the Hillman. Can he make it another overall in the second race, in his first overall on the TM bike. As here we are going backwards, and it's like on the start line as we're preparing ourselves. There's Monticelli and Osland trying to get into the TV shot. So you lean forward, get into gear, hold the clutch and get away. And that's a horrible start, as I totally forgot that we were in first. I didn't need to change up a gear. As Herlings gets the whole shot, the Dutchman, and we got some work to do in the midfield. And it's like just like the first race, as Osland's putting us wide. Is that what you're doing? Into the Hasbrana, I think that is. On the inside, as here we go over the jump. We gain a huge amount of time. It's bloody ridiculous, the advantage we get. As we've got the Swiss rider on, there's Suzuki down the inside. We're up into 8th though, after that poor start. This time we're on the inside of that final corner. As we get our first full circuit of the lap. It's Herlings, the Dutchman's down in front. Petrov is down on the Kawasaki. What a turn of events. As we got to go wide into the Swiss rider. Is there someone going down or inside? And looks like the Yamaha. So have the Belgian rider. But we're up into second, chasing our French rival on the Yamaha. And that fall could be disastrous for Herlings in the championship. He's already got some distance to make up to Hillman. With the Macau rider being so consistent this season, even with, as you can see, the new challenge here in Germany, it's not really changed anything. As he changed onto a better bike with the TM. So for Herlings, he's already perhaps thinking it could be championship over, as we take the lead very easily. Did not know what the opposition was trying there. He just got into the rut and just out the groove and into the sign, it looks like. But he's still on our tail as we come to the end of the first full lap of the race. Look at that. I remember that was just flat out and on the ground in MXGP2. Now you're flying through that corner, literally. So we'd say that final corner almost grazing the hill on the inside to go on to the second lap. So I'm going to take it a bit easier with Hillman for the rest of the race. I was pushing in that first race and you saw the results, so just going to keep it a bit calmer here, keep the same rhythm, not push as hard, as they'll do seem to have some pace in hand once again here in Germany. This German track, so technical, you can see in this middle section. It kind of reminds me of the Saxon Ring they have in MotoGP with the first section there, where it's so tight and twisty. You have lots of tight corners there. You have to be so precise and patient with the power and the throttle. And you have to get in a bit of a throw as well in that first section, Saxon Ring. A bit like having to do in that middle section there before it opens up now in this final section. You know, with the massive jumps, faster corners as well, even though we've got a hairpin coming up. After this flat out right. Yeah, definitely reminds me of the Saxon Ring, this track, with how technical it is. As we go on to the third lap of the race, I said I was slow and I went into the 30s. But it might just be my average pace around here. It's on this TM bike. Definitely am enjoying it. Might move teams again when I have the next opportunity. Just go through all the bikes so you can hear all the different sounds. And hear all the variants. As that is a fantastic part of this game now, that most of them have actually bothered with sound design. And it's definitely improved in this game from MXGP2. It's the same monotonous drone. Bit like the Suzuki sound for every bike. Now you've got the variations with the KTM hammer. If it's bouncy-ish TM sound. Got the Suzuki drone. We're interested to see what the Yamaha, Kawasaki and Honda sound like. Into the final part of this fill up over the halfway mark. Crowd going ecstatic over that. Another part of the sound design as well, which is nice there and has improved as well from MXGP2. The crowd sounds, hearing that cheering, hearing that individual clapping sometimes. Good job, Milestone. Good job in your sound department. Give them a pay rise, especially for what they've been doing with MotoGP 17. It looks like. As it's nice to see Milestone actually finally bothering to tinker with their sounds, which has been a major complaint over the years with the MotoGP games in particular, but with all the games in general. Same with the graphics. They haven't really done much of it, have they, in MXGP3, but I'm hoping they do in MXGP4. And hoping in MXGP4 we actually get the Women's Motocross Championship as well in this. Yeah, so they don't have all of the classes in this game. I know, in the official motocross game they don't have all of them. There's also a Women's Championship which takes part over, I think, 7 rounds this year. So it'd be nice to see them in the game as well. You know, a bit like FIFA doing with women's football, introducing it into their games as well, so you know, it's good to see that. You know, it's not just male inclusive, you know, some of these sports, you know. So it's good to see them taking steps forward, introducing, you know, female side in FIFA. Hopefully, you know, building on what's been growing interest in the female game as well, especially after England got third in the World Cup a couple of years ago. You know, I support Chelsea. I also support, you know, the Chelsea women's team. Fantastic to see them win the Spring Series in real life. You know, before they actually have a season like they do with the men's now, with the Women's Super League. It's going to be over the winter, like the rest of Europe as well. I believe most leagues in Europe now, and the women's game are doing that as well. So that should be better for, you know, the women heading into major tournaments, because they were playing the World Cup while there was also a domestic season going on, no, back there a couple of years ago. So that should really help them at major championships such as European, such as the World Cup, to be even better. And of course I can't wait to see what the next season brings as well. Of course hoping Chelsea win it again, but Man City are strong, Liverpool are a bit better in the Spring Series. So, you know, it should be exciting. As you saw Monticelli on the KTM go down. This lap on the final lap of the race now. Disappointing to see for the KTM rider who's been pretty consistent in the lower top 10 in recent races, battling for the top 10 in the championship. But battling for first place, once again, there's only been one man this race. As the Hammer comes towards the final corner and takes his second win on the team and his first overall on his new bike with his new team. The 27 does stand out in the front of the bike as well on that number plate, as our French rival on the Yamaha finished second by almost 14 seconds. I was going a bit slow that race, I was sure. Been a bit more relaxed, but still. Winning by a country mile, with the Brit in third on the Has-Fun, a much better result for him. Bogues in fourth, Tom Koff in fifth on the Yamaha, sixth is our teammate on the TM. Siwa in seventh on the Suzuki. There's Herdins in eighth after that dramatic fall on the first lap on the KTM. Then the Belgian following up that top 5 result with the top 10 on the Yamaha, with the Kawasaki of Petrov also recovering after that fall on the first lap, after getting caught out by, I believe, Herdins. Instant finishing in 11th for the South African on the KTM in 12th. And looking down the order, there's Osland down in 17th. There's Monticelli in 18th on the KTM after his fall. So after that race weekend, it's like the beginning of the season all over again. Hillman with 2 first, the Frenchman with 2 seconds, Bogues up to the Brit in 4th, Hernan's a bit down the order in 5th, Bernardini in 6th, Belgian in 7th, Swiss in 8th, Petrov in 9th and Tokov in 10th ahead of Covington. So in the championship, it is now virtually a 2-race win lead. 47 points held the Frenchman, and almost 100 points ahead of Herdins already, and Bogues and the Brit, who rounds out the top 5. It is ridiculous, this lead that the Macau rider has. It's almost a 2-horse race already, but as we saw in MXGP2, sometimes things can just turn on a dime, so we've got to keep up this momentum, keep being consistent with our results as we improve our reputation credits, no doubt, after that weekend, and improve our skills as well. But I hope you enjoyed this outing in Germany. It may have been a familiar result, but maybe things will turn around in the next round. So, watching, I'll see you then.